You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 466 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
I like how that seemed to catch you off guard. We're coming to you from different locations this week. I'm in Seattle, Washington, home of the four-time WNBA champion Storm.
And I'm coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold. He's slinging rocks out there during
Wow.
OTAs.
You
Is
were
that what
that
they're called
excited?
right now?
They
Oh,
are
yeah.
called- I don't know if today was technically an OTA, but we are in the OTA period.
Oh, yeah. The period that I'm in is seeing people complaining about the Seahawks off-season period and taking notes.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
But it's the Order 66 edition of the Peltoncast.
It's a pretty dark edition of the Peltoncast. I don't know. But it makes me, I don't want to answer the question of what would be the darkest edition of the Peltoncast. Some thoughts popped
There
into my
was-
head,
there
but
was
I'm
ones.
not going to go
Have
into them.
you still haven't watched the last 3 episodes of Andor?
I have now seen episode 10. The fact that
That's
we
not
are
enough.
recording this podcast is partially preventing me from seeing episodes 11 and 12, but they are on the docket.
Well, there are a
over this
few
week.
real Star Wars fans left, but it's not enough. I was watching episode 2, Star Wars episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Of course, as one does on May 26, 2025.
Well, episode 3 is in the theaters right now, isn't it?
Is it like in the
Am I
theaters
understand-
like a full run? Because I've watched it way too recently, but I would maybe go alone and watch Star Wars episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to do some research on this.
If there's a Regal and I could go like 9 p.m., just get a popcorn, watch it on my own, I think I would enjoy that experience a lot.
Okay, it's the 20th anniversary re-release.
I saw that they were doing that. I wasn't sure if it was like a widespread thing though.
It happened on April 25th, so we may already be too late, sadly. It appears we may already be too late.
It was hard to watch Attack of the Clones because of how stupid the Jedi are.
Wow.
That's my review. Every single thing they're like, wow, that's horrible news. Let's tell Palpatine. And I'm like, yo,
If only there were any modern political analogies for that.
it's a little different. We all know. We're not confused about the order of things right now.
Somehow, he returned.
Have you watched Sinners, by the way?
No.
Oh, is that scary? Was that a no? Like the way you said no was a no, I haven't, and no, I'm not going to,
Correct.
because it could tangentially be considered a horror movie.
Exactly.
Wow. You have never been more wrong.
It's maybe I could watch the first hour of it or so. I don't know.
Oh, you're
exactly.
aware. I was wondering. I actually thought to
Well,
myself
I have received a full review
from Jan.
from Jan. I mean, I've also heard about it from other people, but Jan gave me the specific, "Oh, I did not like watching this movie. I should not have gotten to it." Review.
Full review from Jan. It is like
Which
not
is-
really a
is-
horror movie.
Obviously, I mean, yeah, I understand it. It's it's a genre to itself now. But even though it's not necessarily a horror movie, it does seem that there are horror tropes, and that is sufficient to
That's
make
enough.
it unwatchable. for me.
Nightmares. ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton has nightmares. Aggregate it.
Oh, don't-
Is
don't
Grace
encourage
interested
him.
in it?
She has seen it. Yeah.
Oh, she went to it,
Yeah.
and you still got the review from Jan. Because I was gonna say, I think,
we talked about it. Yes, after my wife saw it, we talked about it. I'm just saying her review was not is me specific as Jan's was.
wow, Jan tailored it to you, huh?
No, it's just that she happens to have the same perspective on this genre of movies.
What happened to our family?
A distinct lack of therapy for generations.
Why I can watch. Never mind me. Keep podcasting. I'm just going to be looking up to see if they have Revenge of the Sith for me to watch alone in the theater.
Again, it premiered on April 25th, so it is long out of the theaters by now. Sadly, your opportunity has come and gone.
Maybe Central Cinema.
Should we do? Yeah, I don't know if it went to the second run theaters after the first run theaters. Uh, should we do some toasts?
Absolutely, we should.
Congrats to the Kraken's Matty Beniers, Joey Decord, and Mikey Isamont, who helped the USA win the IIHF World Championship Sunday in Stockholm, beating Switzerland 1-0 in overtime for the first U.S. gold medal in the competition since, wait for it, 1933,
Wow.
prior
Really?
to World War II. They've won the gold medal. It's kind of fascinating that they have not won the World Championships at all.
You should have asked me if that was before World War II or not.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Do you know what year Pearl Harbor was?
1941.
Okay, good. Decord did not play in the final, but was 2-1 in the tournament. And goal, well, Beniers had 3 goals and 3 assists in 10 games, and Isamont had a goal and 2 assists. Congrats also to Adam Larsson, who won a bronze with host Sweden. All right, and something that was previewed IRL for the toasts. No, I guess actually the next one was. Congrats to AJ Guerrero, who became
I was
UW
going to say,
Baseball's all-time leader in home runs on Friday during an eventual 6-5 loss to USC in what was presumably his final game for the Huskies as a senior, passing Kyle Conley and Ed Erickson with his 43rd career home run. The Fife native was already the UW all-time leader in hits and
Wow,
finished tied for
Fife!
first in career RBI.
that also will come up later.
Okay, there we
High
go, a
school AJ
Fife-centric
Guerrero,
pod. All right, this is what was previewed. Congrats to UW baseball alum Willie McIver, who made his MLB debut Sunday with the Athletics at age 28, driving home the winning run and ending the game by throwing out a runner trying to steal.
Really?
Yeah, how about that? We did not know that when we talked about this at your
At
birthday
age
party.
28?
The catcher was drafted by the Rockies in the 9th round in 2018, but topped out
That's
in the
awesome.
organization at AAA before signing with the A's as a minor league free agent last winter. So
I
that's
gotta
some-
say, one of my favorite things about baseball in general is just how old you can be and be a rookie in baseball.
well, obviously, this podcast's favorite player, Rich Amaral,
Yeah.
finished, I believe, runner-up in Rookie of the Year voting in 1993 at age 31.
There was somebody who has I don't think this is Shane Smith, although I did look up Shane Smith's baseball reference because he's awesome now. Because Rule 5 draft pick being awesome, that is a thing I am in on. But there was somebody who was
Well, he's awesome against most teams.
there we go. But who was just bad in college for 3 years. They went to a big, I want to say West Coast school, West Coast Conference school or something like that. I don't remember whether it's Shane Smith or not. But and then they just got good their senior year, undrafted, and now they're just kind of a star in the majors. It is a totally different sport than almost anything else. Football has a little bit of an element of it, but not as extreme.
I mean, the pitching part of it is exceptionally odd because I forget if it might have been Shane Smith that they were talking out of the Mariners broadcast, who he basically did not pitch in college at all. Between the pandemic and injuries, that let me go to his page here. By the way, Rich Amaral finished 5th in Rookie of the Year voting, so I hate to oversell this. Yeah, let's see here. He pitched 10 1/3 innings at Wake Forest in
That
his
was
career.
Shane Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously was good enough to be at Wake Forest, so it's not like he was bad, but
Yes, and I mean he got drafted in probably. I'm not seeing this information on his.
yeah, no, I don't think he was drafted. I think he was undrafted.
Maybe he wasn't. Okay. Yeah, signed as a free agent with the Milwaukee Brewers in 2021. How about that?
Maybe that was who I was looking at, was him.
Do you recall the overage Rookie of the Year in 1994?
The overage Rookie of the Year in
Yes.
1994.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't Eric Hyatt, right?
No.
Okay. Can you give me are we talking AL or NL?
AL. We were only recognizing the AL at this point. That was pre-interleague play. The NL was a mystery to us.
They had somebody named Gwynn who played over there.
But that's the first thing.
I don't know.
First off, Tony Gwynn was involved in the first round of interleague play. They're literally our rivals.
We didn't know it at the time.
That's true. We did not know it as of the season of record, but
Too busy rocking verses. pre-Vitology. What team? Give me a team.
Kansas City Royals.
Oh, so I was on the right path there. It's an older Royals player.
This player won Rookie of the Year in 1994. His last major league appearance was in 1998.
Was it a pitcher?
No.
I've got no idea. Who was it?
And this player is not wearing, famously, I think, wore glasses. But
Or glasses? I was
although,
thinking.
yeah,
Obviously
he's
not.
got a real George Costanza look to him with his
Really?
hat on. It was Bob Hamlin, the Hamlin.
Oh, and
I'm
he wasn't a
shocked you don't
pitcher.
remember that.
I remember him being a pitcher.
No, he's a first baseman DH. He was basically a Rowdy Tellez type.
Yeah, you could have given me about 1,000 guesses, and I was not coming up with Bob Hamlin.
Although the funny thing is, back then, a Rowdy Tellez type, because you were hitting for a low average, meant you hit 282.
Oh God.
He was a career 246 hitter, but 24 home runs as a rookie in 101 games in that strike-shortened season. I wasn't expecting to get to Bob Hamlin on this week's podcast, but look,
Oh,
I'm always prepared
did you
for
see
it.
the guy who Andrew Chafin, who has the Rod Beck look going on?
I'm familiar with Andrew Chafin's name. I did not know that he has a Rod Beck look going on.
He
though.
pitched against the Mariners today.
That is a great Rod Beck look. But yeah, love it. Totally endorse. Continuing the toast, we say farewell to UW women's golf coach Mary Lou Muffler, who is retiring at the end of July after 42 years leading the program, making her the longest serving head coach in Husky program history by a wide margin. She led UW to the 2016 national title in, wait for it, Eugene.
Oh,
No, you went into Eugene and won the national championship.
okay, great.
In
Fine.
their backyard.
Fine.
Think of how insulting that is.
There we go. I'll accept it. I heard the word and I viscerally scoffed.
And won National Coach of the Year awards in both 2015 and 2016, associate head coach Anna Temple, or replaced Moeffler as head coach. All right, and lastly, this week, farewell to former M's shortstop Gene Segura, who announced his retirement last Wednesday after 12 MLB seasons with 6 teams, including the Mariners, an All-Star in 2018 in Seattle before being traded to the Phillies for J.P. Crawford and Carlos Santana. Segura last played in MLB in 2023 with the Miami Marlins.
I always kind of liked Gene Segura.
Yeah, I have no memories of his Mariners career, but a positive association nonetheless. And on that transitional note, it's time for your favorite segment.
Wow, already.
Don't burn yourself. We got Mariners hot takes coming at ya.
Okay, so I felt like it would be bad faith to talk about the Mariners during these Mariners hot takes because I spent so little time watching the Mariners over this last weekend, because I spent every single second of my birthday weekend at Sirius Sports Complex in North Bend, Washington, where there were children's baseball games spread out multiple hours apart throughout the day. And I felt like this would be an appropriate week for me to rank the ballparks that I have spent most of my spring and summer weekends at throughout the last 4 years. We're going to do this starting with number 1 all the way down to there are 9 of these. So we're doing best to worst.
We're not doing reverse order?
No, we're not doing reverse order. Because at number 1, we have Sirius Sports Complex in North Bend, Washington. It honestly has it all. It's a few minutes from the lovely town, which has one of the best taco times, a real taco time must.
It's so clutch when you get over the pass.
Friends and Co. ice cream shop, tons of nature, scenic views with Mount Si right there, the Double R Cafe, loads of parks in the area, nature. I saw multiple herds of elk multiple times this weekend. People just stop. I am all in on North Bend right now. Bonus or demerit for having short fences, which allow the children to hit a number of home runs, which is very fun hitting and very annoying pitching. There's a steep drop off after number 1. At number 2, we have DACA Park and Fife. The Pickens get slim after North Bend, so this one comes in at number 2, almost purely because I've been really enjoying going to Quick Pick, which is a 5-minute drive away from the ballpark. The original Quick Pick location, while sometimes fairly busy, really hits the spot and is very well priced for the types of burgers they have. It's a relatively short drive for me also to Fife. You don't have to hit Tacoma traffic, and the field is right off of I-5.
Okay.
At number 3, we have the Rack in Lacey. I don't like driving to
The
Lacey.
Nordstrom Rack or
No, the Regional Athletic Center.
oh,
I do not like driving to Lacey. It's sometimes 6:30 in the morning. But this comes in at number 3 because it's a short drive from the Billy Frank Jr. Nisqually National Wildlife Refuge. So after dropping off your child for warm-ups, it's only a short drive to see some elegant birds, possibly otters, before yelling that your child is out of the family for popping out.
you like to, really relax and be at one with nature, and it gets you in the right headspace to yell at your child.
Bonus also for covered stands, which makes it slightly more palatable in the rain. At number 4, we have Sarah Park in Tacoma. Pretty deep into Tacoma. But the spot is
I
number 4.
believe this is the one I've been to.
You have?
Right?
Oh, this is it? I guess you've only been to one of these. Because they have a dude who barbecues, burgers and hot dogs, delicious grilled onions, right there in the middle of the clover-shaped fields. It smells amazing. It tastes amazing. The burgers are great. Right next to it, there's a splash park if it gets hot during the summer. And there's a park employee who stands out in front and greets you. By far the best person you will encounter at all of children's baseball. He makes you feel so welcome that you only whisper to your child that they're walking home when you're passing by him. At number 5 is Rotary Park in Ellensburg. It's windy. You almost always need to evade wildfires over the summer, but there are quails that hop around and marmots everywhere in Ellensburg that really make it special and unique. An amazing place to be thankful that you didn't have to go to Central Washington University.
Like jam.
At number 6 is Heritage Park in Puyallup. Completely devoid of all culture, much like the rest of Puyallup. I was going to rank it last, but I pulled up a photo and was reminded that the park does have a pretty nice view of Mount Rainier, which is enough at this point in these ballparks to not rank it dead last. At number 7, we have Sprinker Park in Parkland. Have you ever heard of this?
No, the Parkland or Sprinkler?
Either. Was Parkland one of the cities that you named?
No, because it's not in King County, right? It's safely in Pierce County.
I spent a bleak morning here a few weeks ago. However, during the 2-hour-long break, I did get a burger from a spot called Lucky's that has seating in an old converted school bus. The burger wasn't quite as good as I wanted to be, but atmosphere, despite being in Parkland, was 10 out of 10. At number 8, we have the Chehalis Sports Complex. Have you ever woken up at 5:30 a.m. to drive to Chehalis? I have. This is almost like if you have to drive to Centralia, but then it's even farther because it is. You know all those road signs on I-5 that you look at, like, but you would never get off on them, and you're like, what happens there? Children's baseball is what happens there, and for some reason at the crack of fucking dawn.
I don't think this is true about Centralia. Centralia has some fine fast food spots. The Sonic is there, I think.
You drive past Centralia. At number 9, and finally last, is Phil Johnson Ball Fields in Everett. The kind of place that makes you say, why the fuck am I at Phil Johnson Ball Fields in Everett? Somehow, even if it's sunny everywhere else in Washington State, it's raining at Phil Johnson Ball Fields. This place is a black hole for society. The only redeeming quality is its relative proximity to downtown Snohomish, which is coin and rustic, of course. But it's not that close to Snohomish, and most of the time, I don't even get pie.
Wow. What a tough life.
That's my unofficial ranking of children's ballparks throughout Washington State. I didn't even rank Meadowdale and Linwood. That is off the list.
Wow, that low.
Yeah, I just hope I never have to go back there.
Now, I'm trying to think where else I've seen Luca play. Well, there was the place in Federal Way, right, where there's the tournament. Isn't there? Well, that wasn't on the rankings, was it?
Federal Way.
Isn't there a tournament? Isn't the final tournament of the season in Federal Way?
That's like a little kid place.
Oh, okay. So
We call that the Dust Bowl, where the Federal Way Knights play.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call that the Dust Bowl. No reception there. One of the worst places I've ever been to in my entire life.
Well,
Fortunately, that is not a place I'll ever have to return to. Well, no, because we'll see. We'll see what Di Matteo plays for next year.
you know, it was one of the worst places the Mariners ever visited.
Oh, was it Houston, Texas?
I mean, I was going to specifically say, what is the name of the stadium now? Is it still Minute Maid Park?
Has to be. Forever and always.
It is in our hearts without question.
Safe Go Field.
Apparently, it is now known as Deacon Park, which here's a Peltoncast trivia. What do you feel like at Deacon?
It's something with
couple
oil. There's no way that it has nothing to do with oil.
You know, you're playing the odds there. I don't
Energy
dispute it.
solutions.
Let's see here.
How-
Dakin.
How is it spelled?
Daikin. Japanese conglomerate Dakin, which owns air conditioning manufacturer Goodman Global. That's new this year, by the way. It was Minute Maid Park as of the previous visit by the Mariners.
All right.
And this Goodman Global is based in Waller, just outside of 41 miles northwest of Houston. So there you go.
Fair
Which I believe in Texas makes it a suburb, right? So I guess we'll get used to that because the deal runs through 2039.
Oh God.
Although Enron's deal probably ran a lot longer than it was first signed than it actually played it. Oh boy, yeah, 30-year deal that they signed in 2000. It lasted for 2 seasons. Wow.
Enron sponsored the Astros before Minute Maid.
Yeah, you don't remember this?
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love it.
Oh yeah. So. All right. Anyways, but yes, a house of horrors for the Mariners over the weekend as they dropped 3 of 4 after starting their road trip 5-1 heading into that. So suddenly it is not suddenly, but it is considerably more of a division race than it could have been pending the outcome of that. The Mariners, with their win on Tuesday, a game and a half up over the Astros, who now have the better run differential and, in fact, the third best run differential in the American League. Mariners sitting fifth behind the two division leaders, the Astros and the Minnesota Twins. Did you watch tonight's game?
I did. I'm just gonna say, not scared of the Astros.
I mean, I don't know that I'm scared of the Astros, but do I necessarily think the Mariners are going to win the division? I do not.
I mean, I guess I like how the division is shaken out right now. There's plenty of baseball still to be played, but where it's at, looking like it's 2 teams who are going to be competing for it. And I think the Rangers, although preseason favorites, if you recall, I was pretty skeptical about this.
You were?
The playoff odds of the Rangers, who knows? Maybe they'll get better. I'm pretty skeptical still, but that it's looks like it's shaking out as just the Mariners and the Astros and the ALS. That's a pretty good place to be. But I did watch today's game. I even old school style forced Luka to come down and watch Cal Raleig's at bats after he hit the 2 home runs.
Because he was going for the third?
And then
Love to
when
see
he
it.
didn't, when he struck out in at bat, it was technically at bat number 4 because he was 2 for 3 at that point. I told Luka, this is your fault.
I was going to make a joke about that, but you beat me to it. So Fangraphs currently has it about 90% that either the Mariners or the Astros will win the division. 8% for the Rangers, 1% for the field. Mariners at 78% to make the playoffs. But despite the Cal Raleigh pair of home runs, which give him 19, now tied for the most through the first 53 games of the season ever by a player who primarily plays catcher.
Wow.
With Roy Campanella. That's how far back you have to go.
God.
Cal was having an amazing season. But despite that, to me, the story of the game had to be Logan Evans going 8 innings of 1-run baseball. And I think what we're seeing, Pete Carroll would be proud of the level of competition in the Mariners starting rotation because they know that there's going to be some musical chairs coming and you don't want to get left out.
I mean, right now, Logan Evans is the guy if it's between him and Hancock.
Not that Hancock has pitched poorly. The got the lone win in the series at Houston. But yeah, I have to agree based on what we've seen from Logan Evans over the last three turns through the rotation. At this point, I don't know about the seven aces, but there's certainly seven quality starters for the Mariners.
I mean, he's like 2 to 3 years younger than Emerson Hancock, which might be a reason not to keep playing him. But I think you just develop Logan Evans as much as you can at this point. I will say the one thing was his strikeouts per nine right now. Um,
Yeah, it's very low.
he did not strike out many batters. I think, and the Mariners are aware of this also. Hancock isn't a great strikeout pitcher either. I think they're both tied 6.4 strikeouts per nine. But when I saw that he went 8 innings and I think struck out 4, is a little bit like, it's not the most important thing in the world, but I do think it's something, and he'll get better at it too. He'll improve on that over time. But it was definitely something that I looked at and I was like, we'll see how long this lasts for. Pitching to contact is not the best strategy in baseball. You're not going to play the Nationals every game. But being able to go 8 innings was pretty impressive.
Wildly impressive. It just never happens in modern baseball. Logan Gilbert did it last September. That was the most recent time that a Mariners pitcher has done it.
And I mean, his whip is significantly better than Hancock's. I think Logan Evans is the guy right now. I mean, we'll see. There are 5 other starters, obviously, and there's going to be spots reserved for all of them. But it gives quite a bit of insurance. It does give the Mariners at least one extra arm if they want to turn around and make a deal at some point.
We're a long ways from that point. They got to get the rotation fully healthy, but by then. But we did see George Kirby's return to the rotation in Houston last Thursday. Didn't go super great with 5 runs in 3 2/3 innings.
I still thought his stuff was nasty, to be honest, watching it. Sometimes things just go sideways.
I mean, speaking of, he did have 4 strikeouts in those 3 2/3 innings, only walked 1. So, some encouraging signs there. I think his batting average on balls in play was probably quite massive. If I can find that. Yeah, 500. So
Yeah.
That's not real sustainable, I would say.
He's going to be fine. Who's this
I'm
Leo
done.
Rivas, though, that they've been developing?
high leverage situations for Leo Rivas. But some injury updates that GM Justin Hollander delivered to Mariners reporters before Tuesday's game. Bryce Miller is expected to return to the rotation during this current 9-game homestand. They've diagnosed a bone spur in his elbow as the source of the inflammation that he was dealing with. So, encouraging that it's not anything related to the tendons or the ligaments. And they don't think it's something that's going to require additional maintenance this season. Logan Gilbert said to begin a rehab assignment later this week. Then Luke Raley expected to go on rehab next week. Still a long ways off from the return from Victor Robles, who is expected to soon begin what will be a 6-week strengthening program. But Hollander apparently told media that Robles may not be able to return to Major League action until September.
It's kind of wild that I sort of forgot that Luke Raley existed.
That is kind of wild.
I mean, in a good way, that the team is playing well enough and hitting well enough that it wasn't like we need Luke Raley back. Obviously, having another person who can play first base, putting in the outfield, it'll be helpful. But honestly, any of these players, like Kirby, is the most important one to get back, and then Gilbert now also. But I don't feel like they're desperate for anything, and I don't think that they're desperate to make it. I was looking at Hancock. It's obvious that it's Logan Evans. There's not even a debate between them, I don't think. Aside from, you're just gonna have to figure out something with Hancock at some point. You got to kind of figure out what he is. But
I would say that having too many capable starting pitchers is never a problem.
I would say that the argument that Logan or Emerson Hancock's a capable starting pitcher is maybe not that solid. I mean, they're winning games that he's playing in, but the numbers are not great.
They're not great, but there's also, I mean, I guess actually his FIP is worse than Luis F. Castillo's. So there is that. The first start still weighs pretty heavily in that one, I would say. I guess.
There's getting to be quite a few now.
Yeah, and they're getting shelled by the Yankees. which I didn't think was Emerson Hancock's fault. I thought he was put in a bad situation in that one.
I guess so. But yeah, I mean, the FIP's obviously the worst of any starters. Although Logan Evans is not great. It'll probably look better after today. Um, but I think the Mariners are still in a great position. They're in such a good position they could lose the 3 of 4 to the Astros, still have the division lead, come back, win this game against the Nats, hopefully win the series against the Nats, and I think they're just not desperate for anything right now, and that's where they want to stay. Um, Julio hitting today, the line drive that he hit in, I think that was the 8th, just like taking a ball, poking it to right field. Julio's hitting so much better. And we talked about this last week that I do think Julio's going to be the most important one. And between Julio and Cal, it's like these could be two of the best hitters in the league.
I mean, Cal has carried the Mariners thus far. As we have talked about, it's possible that Julio gets hot and carries you for an extended stretch of time, even if Cal cools off, as we've seen Jorge Polanco cool off pretty considerably after his outstanding start.
They're just in a really comfortable position, though, right now, where the Mariners are, that they have nothing really, they're not way out playing the run differential. They haven't had any. I don't think the Cal stuff's, he's going to regress probably, but
Yeah, I mean, again, he's tied for the most home runs ever by a catcher through the team's first 53 games, which he's played all of. Hasn't started all of them, but has played all of.
what is the home run record for a catcher?
All right, let me take a look.
I thought you were going to say in Mariners is because Griffey's had obviously monster numbers by this point before.
Yeah. Let's see here. Salvador Perez with 48.
Oh,
That was
man.
definitely not the name I was expecting. I got to tell you.
Wow, good for him.
Campanella that year in 53 that he started with 19 in his team's first 53 games, he hit 41.
I didn't realize Salvi had that many home runs.
Piazza topped out
Just
at
randomly
40.
a 48. He was like Ichiro the year when if Ichiro decided to hit for power.
Wow, I can't believe we're talking about a fluke home run season and the name Brian Anderson didn't even come up. Or Brady Anderson, I should
I was
say.
gonna say, I thought you meant Brett Boone, but it is 21 more than any other season for Salvi. That's kind of incredible.
I think I mentioned this on the Discord. An amusing thing that happened on the broadcast last week. They were talking about Brett Boone managing, and Angie mentioned that Aaron Boone is a great guy, totally different than his brother.
Wow.
Didn't mean it like that. Did not mean it like that. She was just saying they have totally different personalities. I also would have mentioned it if someone could say that about the fabulous Pelton brothers.
Totally different than his brother.
Great guy, totally different.
I guess this is borne out by war, but I feel kind of bad for Salvi that if you're catching almost every day, and he's one of the best defensive catchers in the league, right? And hit 48 homers and still only finished 7th in MVP voting. I'd be kind of pissed about it. But then you're like, okay, yeah, Shohei won. Fine. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. It's a more valuable position to have a lot of home runs from than catcher.
Pitcher?
Yeah, that's the one. That is the one.
I feel like this was maybe like considered, it was almost like a down Shohei season. And he won MVP unanimously.
Wow, hit grand slams on consecutive nights against the Mariners that season.
Who did?
Salvador Perez.
Okay.
Had I been paying attention to the Mariners, I probably would have been upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, Shohei's OPS was merely 965 that season.
The record had stood since Johnny Bench set it in 1970. So, there you go. That's what Cal Raleigh is up against.
Okay.
Anything else in the Mariners?
You're going this weekend.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yes. I'm I guess it won't be by the time we next record, but I'm headed to 2 games on this homestand, which is more games than I attended in all of the 2024 season, as it turns out.
Did you go to a single game in 2024?
No, I'm headed to 2 games, which is more than I attended in all of 2024, which was 1.
Okay, fine.
I went to many more in 2023. I think it was at least 5. But yeah, so I'm excited. And on Saturday, I will try the teriyaki. and we will
Really?
review it on this podcast next
Okay.
week.
Is it
That is my
teriyaki night?
vow.
Is that Saturday?
No,
Or they just have the teriyaki in general?
yeah, they have it every night. The teriyaki night is just highlighted.
Celebrating teriyaki. To me,
Correct.
every night's teriyaki night, whether I have teriyaki or not.
Tonight was the teriyaki night, for the record.
Was it really?
Yes.
Wow.
So
All right, I'll give it up. I was skeptical about teriyaki night, but the Mariners showed up for teriyaki night.
they did.
so-
I didn't hear a single question to Logan Evans postgame about whether he loves teriyaki or what
Really?
his favorite teriyaki is.
God, I just don't think I want to know the answer to that question.
He hasn't been in Seattle that long. Who knows if he's been introduced to Seattle style teriyaki? That's funny. There was
My
was
gut
some
has
reference.
he probably would have given the most bland answer, like knowing athletes, right?
Right.
That he would have been like, "Oh yeah, teriyaki's great," and they're like, "Do you have any favorites?" He'd be like, "All of it. All of it's really good. I just
Yes.
really like teriyaki," and it would have meant nothing to no one.
I bet Nuhu has a favorite, given that
Okay.
he's known for his fondness for teriyaki.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
His
Yeah, he-
favorite is probably whatever his neighborhood teriyaki is.
it's probably something right near the Sounders complex
There we go.
in Kent. Although if he went and got teriyaki at South Center, he would be in Tukwila, which is confusing. You seem skeptical of my geography. It's a fact.
I think that you're saying the Sounders complex is at Starfire.
Well, it used to be at Starfire. The Sounders complex is now at Longacres, which is technically in Kent.
Do you know that
But-
Longacres is shutting down? And by Longacres, I mean the actual horse track.
You mean Emerald Downs? I
Emerald
have
Downs.
heard this.
Yeah.
When is it? What's the date here that
I
it's
think this is
sunsetting?
the last year.
Or do we need coverage of this?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Yes, we do. Do we need coverage of this? Are you asking me to rank how it ranks vis-a-vis Husky baseball?
Oh, Longacres Mile, do it for the rundown.
There's just nobody to cheer for in general.
Jan's heading out to Emerald Downs next weekend, right?
There we go. There was, before I learned that this was official, I saw a church that was doing drive-by prayers this weekend, and I was making a joke about somebody going through there and praying for a horse to win a race.
Okay. It is at risk of shutting down. The 2026 season is in jeopardy, according to Emerald Downs President Phil Ziegler. Not president, but fees imposed by the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Association, the HISA, are nearly doubling. If everyone would leave us alone, we'd be fine, Ziegler told the Seattle Times. That's the crazy part. Just leave us alone. So many people seem to feel that way. Okay.
If everyone would just leave us alone, we'd be fine. That's an incredible quote.
It is truly an incredible. But the HISA fees would increase by 89%, it appears.
I don't know enough about this situation to know which side to be on.
Without any support from the state, Washington would be one of just 3 states, along with California and Colorado, without state investment or casino gaming to supplement the horse racing industry, not injury. Yeah, so there you go.
The state
is not
supplementing the horse racing industry.
or allowing other forms of gambling there to make it more profitable for the racetracks. So, but it is not officially closing down. This is not officially the last season. That is our
Okay.
impromptu
It's off the
Emerald
rundown.
Down coverage, which of course was sparked by talking about the Longacres facility at which the Seattle Sounders FC now
No,
train.
we were talking about teriyaki. Thank you.
and the proximity of teriyaki.
We need to
to
eat cookies really fast.
That
We've got to
new-
get way more focused. We need cookies bad.
at which Nuhu might be eating.
I'm sending Luca with you. I think alone. I think I'm not going on Saturday. Are you okay
Can
with
he-
that?
Yeah. Can he have the teriyaki?
No. I told him that I was going to make you get him Ivers.
Oh, of course. His favorite. All right, let's get into the roundup. All right, Seattle Kraken, one of two remaining coaching vacancies now, along with the Pittsburgh Penguins, who moved on from their coach, Mike Sullivan, a week after the Kraken fired Dan Bylsma. So we will see how long it takes. It's over a month now that the Kraken have been coachless, and there's not that many other teams that coaches can pass on them to go with.
There we go.
Speaking of Seattle Sounders FC, a frustrating match Saturday, a rare noon start, as we talked about, ended with full points after Albert Rushnak converted a penalty in the 86th minute, giving him 5 goals in as many matches. The Sounders had massive 3.1 expected goals on 15 shots, 5 of them on target. Dallas took 16 shots, put 5 of those on target, but generated just 1.3 XG. So a needed win for the Sounders after taking just 1 point from their previous 2 matches. The bad news, defender Yaimar Gomez Andrade left with a hamstring injury in the first half. I've not heard word yet on the severity of that injury, but obviously a discouraging sign when you have to leave the game for that sort of thing. Sounders have a pair of home matches this week against teams ahead of them in the West standings, where they're currently part of a 3-team tie for 4th on 27 points. Expansion side San Diego FC is second in the West table with 27 points. They're making their first ever visit to Seattle after handing the Sounders a 3-0 loss at Snapdragon Stadium on April 5th. Minnesota, meanwhile, with the Sounders host on Sunday, is third with 26 points. Seattle Reign went down 2-1 in the first half as the Washington Spirit kind of dominated and controlled the game, but found a foothold in the second half with Lynn Biondolo entering off the bench and just Fishlock and really Amanda Sear returning to the lineup from injury, but couldn't find the equalizer. Shea Holmes grabbed the goal for the Reign. It was the first of the UW products NWSL career. Loss dropped the Reign to a tie for 6th in the NWSL standings ahead of an international break this weekend. All right, Seattle Storm. A huge win on Sunday. They opened their home schedule Friday. They came from behind to beat the Phoenix Mercury in a fairly workmanlike defensive victory. But Sunday was the showdown, the game we had all circled. Jewel Lloyd's return to Seattle with the Las Vegas Aces. She got a standing ovation from the fans after a video tribute was played pregame, which is something notably. I had forgotten about this, but shout out to friend of the pod, Sabrina Merchant of The Athletic, who reminded me that the Storm did not do a tribute video when Brianna Stewart came back to town, which was a bizarre choice. But they apparently rectified that one on this one.
Do you think they did this because they were criticized about the Brianna Stewart one? Like it looked like sour grapes, basically.
Criticized is too strong, but I do think they realized that was a mistake.
Okay.
So they played that in pregame warmups. I actually missed it because usually they do those like during the first time out or that sort of thing. So I wasn't anticipating it pregame. But she got I was in my seat in time for her to get a standing ovation after that was shown. And then again, when she was introduced with the Aces starters, she came out hot, scored the Aces' first 9 points, made 4 of her first 5 shots. But the Storm were matching the Aces point for point in that stretch. And once Jewel Lloyd went cold, she missed her final 10 shot attempts from the field to finish 4 for 15. Notably, the early scores, Alicia Clark was defending her. Then the Storm switched Gabby Williams onto Lloyd. And obviously there's, switches and that sort of thing. But Gabby Williams kind of led the attack in terms of shutting her down the rest of the game. And the Aces could not find much else offensively. And the Storm, their offense was as crisp as we have seen it since the Sue Bird era, I would say.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You didn't see any of this game because you were out in North Bend.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
32 assists, the third most in franchise history. They made 50% of their threes. Erica Wheeler comes off the bench with 21 points. Nneka Ogwumike, 10 of 15 from the field, became the 11th player in WNBA history with 3,000 career points, moved into 9th all-time in career scoring in a milestone game for her. And Storm were up, I believe, 29 early in the third quarter in this one. And then it was kind of fascinating. So the Aces, they brought in their rookie Elizabeth Kitley, a second-round pick last year, who missed the entire season due to ACL surgery, had only played in garbage time this season, and it sort of was starting to feel like Sunday was garbage time. But she comes in at 6'6", and all of a sudden, 8-0 Aces run, that she was right in the center of it. And Noelle Quinn, she goes to her bullpen. She turns to her bench. Dominique Malunga had not played in the first half of this one after, playing limited minutes against the Phoenix Mercury in her home debut on Friday night. Malunga comes in to match up with Kitley in a battle of 6'6" rookies and helps neutralize her, knocks down a long jumper with her foot on the line, 8
Nice.
points, 5 boards,
Oh,
plays
wow.
the bulk of the remainder of the second half. Like, it was very interesting because obviously Malunga drafted with the pick that you got in the Jewel Lloyd trade. And in this one game, you had Storm Past and Storm Future collided.
It sounds pretty incredible to me. I mean, that what we talked about with Malunga is basically you're just looking for these glimpses. I didn't see this, but that stretch that you're talking about, those points, that defense, those rebounds, that's what we're looking for right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And to do it against, a team that has been one of the best in the WNBA. They're off to a slow start this season. After we recorded last week, opposite the Storms game on Friday night, they were down much of the game to the Washington Mystics, who are rebuilding, starting a couple of rookies, and then ended up winning that game because Jewel Lloyd made a three at the just before the buzzer to win it for the Aces after a tough night for her on Friday night. But they're 2-2 now. They're their worst start since 2021. But still, this is a big time team, and Malunga was out there not just holding her own, but having a significant impact on the game.
Wow. It's so
And-
funny how different the like tone and tenor is of the
Oh,
Storm,
yeah.
where again, you just can't jump to conclusions after one single game, which I think many people did. And now you look at them, what are they at? They're 3-2, is that right?
3-2. We'll talk about the Minnesota game a little bit more in a second
But
here.
they've played some difficult games in that 3-2 as well. It has not been an easy schedule.
Yeah, I mean that was probably the concern when they were 2-1 in somewhat unimpressive fashion. Is that Phoenix TBD, they got a nice win on Tuesday night to move to, I believe they are also at 3-2 on the season. They beat the struggling Chicago Sky. And no, they're 4-1. So the Storm handed them their only loss thus far, although their schedule has not been very difficult. But and then Dallas, who was off to a winless start, although then they blew out Connecticut on Tuesday night. So, seeing a little bit more of, I think, what the Wings are going to be able to do and Paige Beckers is going to be able to do this season. But they were 2-1 in kind of unimpressive fashion. And then they come out and beat the Aces in a way that, like, last year, I forget I had this in on Blue Sky, so I should be able to look it up here. But like last year, they struggled against all the best teams in the league, including the Aces, who beat them 5 out of 6 times, including the playoffs. Had beat them 7 times in a row, including the playoffs at Climate Pledge Arena, dating back to June 2022. So it had been a while since they beat a team like this. They were 4-12 combined last year against the 4 teams out of them in the standings. So to beat the Aces and to beat them so comfortably in such dominant fashion, like that was an indication that the upside for this team may be higher than I think we thought it was coming into the season.
Absolutely.
And
Uh,
Erica Wheeler is a big part of that because the what happened with the Phoenix game is in the opening day loss is in addition to just being a 22-point loss, it also reinforced a lot of your concerns about the Storm. Maybe some of their role players are aging a little bit and aren't going to contribute as much as you were hoping. They don't have a ton of shooting. We knew that was going to be a weakness coming into the season. Maybe, their depth isn't going to be there with the Katie Lou Samuelson injury and with Malunga being 19 and not necessarily ready to contribute on a night-to-night basis. And then against Vegas, like I mentioned, Eric Wheeler, 21 points off the bench. Just a terrific performance. Malunga giving you good minutes. So they were able to go 8 deep in both halves. And it was the flip side of that where, like, basically if all of these things hit, this is how good the Storm could potentially be.
okay, so what about Tuesday night against Minnesota?
Yeah, a game that you watched part of.
Uh-huh.
So playing the team that lost in the finals last year, the Lynx, who are off to an undefeated start, now 5-0, plus 8.8 points per game. And the Storm fall hopelessly behind. They're down 14-2 at the start of this game. And still after the first quarter, down 26-11. But it was a very, I posted the GIF, the hanging around, and that's exactly what the Storm did in this one. And managed at one point to get it, they got it down to a one possession game in the fourth quarter. Gabby Williams, just terrific in this one, 20 points, 6 assists, a couple of blocks. She stepped up offensively. Skylar Diggins and Neko Gumake, who were so terrific in the first 4 games, didn't have the same kind of performance. Diggins did get going in the second half, had 18 points, albeit with 6 turnovers. NECA, 11 points, 5 of 14 shooting, very atypical for someone as efficient as she is. But, Gabby Williams really stepped up. Another strong performance by Erica Wheeler off the bench, 10 points in 17 minutes, knocked down a pair of threes. And the Storm had a chance to steal this one on the road against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the WNBA. So
I don't know. I saw the Liberty point differential and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the Liberty are very good too, without question. The Liberty and Lynx both picking up where they left off last year when they played that classic finals against each other. But
I mean, the Liberty would be haven't played anybody. I mean, their point differential is like
17. They played
17.
Indiana. But one of the interesting things that's happened.
And they beat Indiana by 2.
Correct.
But then they crushed the Valkyries. And that's a lot of it at this point. They crushed the Valkyries.
They also crushed the Aces in their opener.
14.
That game was more lopsided than the final score indicated. So it was a really impressive win. But Caitlin Clark's injury does change the no, she's going to miss a stretch here where the Fever are primarily playing some of the weaker teams in the league, so Indiana may be able to get by without her, but it does crack the door open a little bit more. We talked about coming into the season, those 4 teams that all of us at ESPN picked is the most likely semifinalists, and would have said are the most likely teams to have home court advantage in the first round.
Minnesota, New York, Vegas and Indiana.
Yeah.
It's a different set of teams, it's feeling like. And I do think that the Storm, it's 5 games, but you could make a reasonable argument that they could be in that mix.
I mean, Atlanta looks like they belong in that mix. They're at 4-2 now, have won 3 in a row. Phoenix again 4-1. Haven't played a very difficult schedule thus far, but did get that 22-point win over the Storm on opening night. So, it's a much longer season than it used to be now that they're playing a record 44 games, up from, most of the time that I've been covering the WNBA. It was a 34-game regular season, so you've got more time to make up ground. But still, I think you have to feel good about where the Storm are 5 games into the season. And then now they've got a bit of an opportunity. Their next 3 games are going to be at home to continue to make up some ground here. They get the Aces again on Sunday, which is fascinating. Vegas is making 2 trips to Seattle within an 8-day span, and then not again the rest of the regular season. Atlanta, as we mentioned, coming off that hot start, is here on Friday night, and then a week from tonight, the Dallas Wings, Paige Beckers, will be coming to Seattle for the first time. Another matchup of the number 1 and number 2 picks. We'll see if Dominique Malenga plays a little more than she did when they played in Dallas.
There was a 3 in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left. I think the Storm were down 5. And I think it was Gabby Williams missed like a pretty wide open 3.
I don't remember this specifically.
Somebody missed a pretty wide open 3, and it was like, if that shot goes in, this is a totally different game. And the Storm have to start shooting more 3s. Every team probably has to start shooting more 3s, but the Storm have to start shooting more 3s and a little bit more efficiently. And if that goes in, to be in that place against Minnesota, it was pretty impressive. Right. I didn't feel like they finished okay. There were some moments where it was like just a few bits that probably would have done differently down the stretch. But, it's the 5th game of the season or whatever.
Yep. So we'll keep monitoring the Storm obviously closely and see what we think going forward. But
what is a good number of 3s? Like a good NBA shooting, like how many shots per game does, say, like Steph Curry or somebody take? How many 3s?
I mean, Steph takes double digits, but it's also a 48-minute game.
Okay. That makes sense.
Storm did, by the way, shoot more 3s than the Lynx in this one. So it wasn't the volume of 3s tonight, I wouldn't say. 24 out of 67 that's enough for them.
Is Caitlin Clark the highest volume 3-point shooter in the league?
I think so.
Okay.
I'd have to think about it if there's someone I'm missing. But off the top of my head, it would certainly be her. Yeah, she attempted 31 more than Arike Ogunbowale last year, who was second. So she did play two more games on a per game basis. It was 8.9 to 8.5. Sabrina Ionescu and Ryan Howard, the other two, over 8 per game. I think Kelsey Plum's going to be safely over 8 per game this season. She's at 8.8 thus far, with the Sparks averaging 24.8 points per game before tonight's loss. So,
She's
yeah.
their star.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without question.
I like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to have like a lone star in LA.
I mean, I think she's hoping. I mean, I wouldn't say lone star because Dearica Hampy is an all-star in her own right. And I think she's hoping that Rickea Jackson and Cameron Brink will grow into stars as well. But
Is Cameron Brink healthy right now or no?
no, she's not yet back from her ACL surgery. She is expected back in mid-June. So probably about another 3 weeks here, I would say. Sparks did lose at home to Atlanta on Tuesday night, dropping to 2-4 on the season, although albeit with a pretty good minus 0.4 differential. All right. The only other thing I have on my notes this week, we mentioned earlier, the 4-week period for Seahawks OTAs opened Tuesday. Just 3 of the 10 sessions in that span that they'll hold as specifically as OTAs are open to the media. All of those will be next week. So basically at this point, we're gleaning from the photos of camp what we can.
I saw a highlight.
Did you?
Yeah.
They posted it on social?
Yeah.
Uh,
That's it.
We did see that Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton, who didn't participate in the rookie camp a few weeks ago, their 5th-round pick, was dressed and out there, which is an encouraging sign.
Did you look at all? Do you have any thoughts on this? I don't know if we even need to talk about this CFB corner post about the top 30 quarterbacks in college football.
I don't know the college football quarterbacks nearly well enough to have any thoughts about it.
I mean, I guess the only thing that I'll say is what it reinforces, what I was talking about kind of at the end of this season, looking ahead, is just how inexperienced big schools quarterbacks are.
Yes, that makes sense.
But
I think that's going to be more the norm because of the fact that we're used to this period where everyone, well, I don't know. We'll see what
I don't think it is
going to
be. I don't know if I think that's going to be more the norm because I still think the big quarterbacks are going to be getting the kind of. I mean, I'm actually curious if this season's an outlier, and the amount of stories that we've seen about who knows what Quinn Ewers is thinking, but about the kind of money Quinn Ewers could have made in college versus the kind of money Quinn Ewers is going to make in the NFL. At some point, you have to go to the NFL. If you get a large payday in college for one extra year and you're a Quinn Ewers type quarterback, might make sense. You know, what Carson Beck is doing might be the right decision. But just the amount of experienced quarterbacks, we're used to this whole period where there were so many extremely experienced quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
And they were mostly starting for kind of like blue blood teams, for the biggest teams had players like that. So this year, I mean, the fact that you like Alabama's quarterback isn't on this list of the top 30 quarterbacks in college football, that Ohio State's is 21. Michigan, we'll see, obviously is not experienced, but like those types of schools don't have the most experienced quarterbacks.
I would say Michigan might not have had the most experienced quarterbacks last year.
No, I mean, it's been a while for Michigan, but Michigan is spending a lot of money at quarterback on a true freshman. And it's just a fascinating college football season. And even the ones who are coming back, I think the confidence that people have in them, you know, like Drew Aller, Carson Beck, those types of quarterbacks, is basically like they've been around. And the ones who we consider like set near the top is like Arch Manning, who's never really started, and DJ Lagway, who's played for a season. So, and same with, you know, Lenore Sellers, Sam Levitt, like Fernando Mendoza. These are not experienced quarterbacks at almost any of these schools. So it is something where I think it's kind of fascinating. And you could obviously say the same about the quarterback at UW. He's played, he's started a small handful of games. He's been better than almost all of these quarterbacks in those small handful of games. and I would say that's usually a pretty good sign. The team down south doesn't have a quarterback listed in the top 30. Uh, I it is an interesting season where it's like, if he's good enough, he could be the best college football quarterback. He could be the best quarterback in the country. And I think it's going to be a fascinating and wide open year of college football, I guess is what I'll say, seeing this. Whereas last season, it was kind of like, you knew generally, right? Like, you knew generally where these teams were going to be. Some people were going to surprise you, et cetera. It's, it's college football, but the experience at the quarterback position for so many schools meant it was probably going to be like the teams that made the playoffs, 8 of them or something like that were like, I could almost guarantee that these 8 teams were going to be there between your Cam Wards and, quarterbacks like that. So I think it is going to be a very fascinating season. And, at the most important position, there's just so little experience.
And I will continue to only care about Utah.
It's so wild to me. We'll see. You didn't used to care about the Mariners. You never know.
That's a different situation. I even predicted that I was going to jump on the bandwagon.
You boldly predicted the thing about yourself.
Yeah,
That's
it was
great.
self-fulfilling. Or no,
Great.
it wasn't self-fulfilling, but it was the thing I had a control over. So that's the best kind of bold prediction.
I mean, even Mateer like being ranked number 11, I'm just like, but he's also bad.
I don't think he's bad.
We've seen him, and he's bad.
He's bad at throwing. But
Yes,
that's not the entire job.
I agree. But like, he's bad at one of the most important things.
Maybe the most important, but still, we were still fucking terrified.
I guess so. I actually was not terrified up until the second that the Huskies lost. I was convinced they were going to win the game the entire time
I didn't have enough appropriate fear.
until Jed Fish called the play.
On that note,
Thanks for listening.
thanks.
If you had to choose right now, I guess maybe this is like too easy of an answer because it's happened. A Sounders MLS Cup run or a Kraken Stanley Cup run. Which would you choose? It's not even close, is it?
Yeah, but I think because of the fact that we've seen it before. I mean, the also like the thing about an MLS Cup run is, like the MLS Cup playoffs, it's generally one game a week after the bizarre best of 3 first round, which is still, I think, generally one game a week. I forget exactly what the schedule is like for that, but like the Kraken, if they went to the Stanley Cup or won it, I don't know exactly which one you're saying. Like they'd be playing every other night for like 2 months.
It would be
in the
awesome.
nicest part of the year. Like we got into the Nux Cup Finals run and had no particular affinity and not that much engagement with other Vancouver fans besides ourselves.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think ultimately hockey is just a more fun sport to watch and to follow than soccer is.
I mean, I do not agree with this assessment, and
You
also
don't.
I think when the World Cup
But
comes to
we
the United
already
States,
know how the only good thing about the world, not the only good thing. The good thing about the World Cup is the stakes and how often there's soccer.
yes, but also it's this, but also the games are fun. I don't know. I dispute your position.
But also because they
as a
have
sport.
to play soccer every game. A season of soccer is just, it's a boring thing to pay attention to.
Well, I agree
A
with that
regular
part of
season
it,
of
yes.
soccer. Like they force them. If they force the teams, MLS might have had it right.
In the early days with the
Yeah.
shootouts,
We got bullied into it by pretentious people into a less interesting form of soccer.
it's an interesting take. I'm
I've
not going to
actually-
endorse it, but it's an interesting take.
I've been thinking about this so much about sports and entertainment since our conversation last week about the WNBA, about the person being like, focus on the basketball, and just about how like being technically proficient at something is not actually an interesting thing at all. It can be, but just the process of technical proficiency does not equal interesting.
Well, this is where third Pelton brother Noah Cohen would point out that it's all about stories.
That's what I was saying last week. I mean, that's it. right? He's right.
Yes.
Winning is fun because the stories get told more.
Have you heard that Caitlin Clark has suffered an injury?
Oh, I'm very aware.
She's going to miss 2 weeks. And there is outcry. There's concern for the future of the league because Caitlin Clark is out 2 weeks.
Is there actually? No, there's not.
There's one particular reporter who has a history of fomenting some troublesome Caitlin Clark takes.
I got a push notification about how like MVP odds have changed because of it, which I guess makes sense.
I mean, it doesn't because Caitlin wasn't going to win MVP before.
Wow. Who's going to win it? Nafisha Collier?
She's certainly the early favorite. I'm not ready on Asia Wilson after 4 games out of a 44-game season, but that's just me.
Anyway, yeah, technical proficiency. I mean, I've always felt this like deep down, and rock guitarists or like musicians in a lot of ways, right? Like technical proficiency is just like, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you, and I just don't care.
Is this an Eric Clapton take?
No, Eric Clapton has like pop. It's like an Yngwie Malmsteen take.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Well, I think there is a certain group of people, including Chuck Klosterman, who do feel that way about Eric Clapton.
You can, but it's like a more Joe Satriani and like those types of people is what I'm talking at. But it's just like
extended guitar solos are
there
not.
There are many ways to appreciate things.
You don't make friends with extended guitar solos.
They can appreciate things, and you can appreciate technically proficient basketball. But I do think the thing that makes a thing, and so I was thinking about this, like it's been nonstop in the NBA too, where people are like, there's a Charles Barkley where he was like, network. He said, I love you, so this is okay. I love you, but stop trying to make Ant the star. SGA is the star. And it's like, you don't choose by skill. The best basketball player doesn't automatically get to be the biggest star. He might be the best basketball player. That's fine. But you have to have important moments along the way.
I suspect if the Oklahoma City Thunder, in fact, win a championship, I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander already has had some moments. I think there was some last night.
No, that's fine. He's getting there, but Anthony Edwards is more famous and more likable right now.
I agree, but you're getting into some other factors here, which is not people. It's easier for people to believe the story or to understand the stories when they think, "Wow, that person is like me." And the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander happened to be born down south of where we are makes people think he's less like us.
You think the Canadian thing is too big of a deal?
I think it's an enormous deal. Anthony Edwards, the reason he's like
Anthony Edwards is awesome.
I mean, he's got
personality.
He's an objectively great personality. Was in a movie after his rookie season. I'm not disputing all of that, but also like Anthony Edwards in a void of quality American players, and particularly quality American players who also have that kind of interesting personality. Like it's been the perfect time for him.
Fair enough. I think they should also. I feel like this might be a Bill Simmons take, but like they should basically rank championships. You know, like there's these things like we treat everything like it's the same.
Yes.
And treating but it actually isn't. In the future, like how many championships have mattered? You know what I mean? Like when I think back on championships that have mattered, the Detroit Pistons have 0.
That's not true.
The Spurs maybe have 1. The Heat have a handful. The LeBron Cleveland championship matters the most of any championship. Somehow the LA bubble championship does not matter at all. Like it solidified them, but it just wasn't an interesting championship because of the bubble situation.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, part of it is like the problem with doing this in the NBA is now that the asterisk discourse, thanks Phil Jackson, has like become so powerful that you can't even acknowledge that some championship paths were more difficult than others because of the fact that
what is the asterisk
therefore too
discourse?
Disrespectful. That the 1999 Spurs, to go to your point, that their championship meant less because it was a 50-game season.
And Phil Jackson said that?
Yeah. Once he was coaching the Lakers, who did not win the championship that year, but did when the NBA resumed playing 82-game seasons.
Phil Jackson is right.
No, he's not. I mean, he's wrong because there is no asterisk. There's a record book. It's still in there as a championship. It is the Lakers. But I do agree that certain championships have more meaning than others. But the other aspect of it is how that meaning is constructed is a very subjective process that people will try to treat as an objective they will take their subjective opinion as objective fact, which is true about most things in life.
But ultimately, the reason that it doesn't matter is because none of these things matter. And that's like what it really comes down to.
There,
Is like,
there was like a bot reply. I forget what post on Blue Sky it was the other night, but it was like something about the fouling up three, and the bot replied, "Well, the NBA doesn't matter at all because climate change is going to kill us all."
I mean,
And it's like, you know what? Objectively
I see
right.
no lies, bot.
This goes back to the discussion that we had on the Discord about earnestness or earnesty, depending on whether you
Oh
think
man,
that's a
see,
word or
there
not.
was so much. I was so. We'll get to this in Mariners hot takes. I was so distracted, or you just heard it in Mariners hot takes. I don't know.
No, this is gonna be at the end.
I was so distracted by just being out in the world all weekend that I could not catch up on Discord. But there
Okay,
was
but this happened Tuesday night.
today?
Which part of the weekend do you find Tuesday night?
It was still sunny.
Oh,
Wait, and what channel?
that was in the asides, which I find like feel like the most interesting conversations of the, with all due respect to my Peltoncast MVP vote, the Mariners
Sick
channel.
vote. We'll always remember the vote. It's like the flicker. The flicker we should have voted for MVP this year.
The Flicker. You know what? The Flicker didn't have a strong enough season. It had a good moment, but it didn't carry it through, sustain it for the full season. That's why it was a Flicker.
Is earnesty? What was can you summarize? I don't have time to read all this. What is the
Well, it started with a post that Yimbys, which is not really a term that I've heard much, but obviously I understand the context, that someone finds them very annoying but objectively correct, and that was
what
the
is a
discussion.
yimby?
So the opposite of a NIMBY, therefore, someone who is saying, "Let's do all the things here."
I'm not sure I know enough about these terms.
Well, NIMBYs don't want to do anything. It was like, yes, of course, we need an airport in this city, but not by me.
Oh, not the NIMBY is not in my neighborhood.
Yeah, not in my backyard is the
Not in
term, I'm
my
pretty
backyard.
sure.
Okay, got it. And the YIMBY is yes in my backyard.
Yeah. By the way,
And
did you know
they're
that Steph
right, but
Curry is
they're
a
annoying.
NIMBY? Yes.
I'm sure
That's this
most
person's
people, most rich people are NIMBYs. It's
opinion.
not
Well,
like a
yes.
unique thing to Steph Curry.
It's not. There was just a story. about
Literally
this.
born rich, also Steph Curry.
It is true.
I guess I don't really know if cringe has to do with anything related to politics, if that's what we're talking about. Earnestness means yes in my backyard, because I don't think those things are exactly the same thing.
I agree they're
Wanting
not, but
things
they're
in your
saying,
backyard is not an earnestness thing.
I think
It's more of like an openness.
I think that's the issue that this person has with Yimbys is related to that. I don't know. I don't know this person. I've just seen this one post that
There's
sparked the
also a post
discussion.
from 2022.
You missed it over the weekend.
Yeah, on Tuesday.
Well, someone, by the way, if I can complain about something, this
course.
Pistons account on Twitter posted my USA basketball roster from last August after the Olympics and complained that I didn't pick Cade Cunningham for it and posted it without a link and just the list of players as if it had been written today. As if I, after the season, was like, hey, you know who probably should be on the Olympic team in 2028? Joel Embiid. You know, I've looked at the state of his knee, and I'm pretty confident he's going to make it healthy to 2028.
I love you complaining about a bad faith argument on the internet.
I'm like, even by the standards of bad faith arguments on the internet, and believe me, I saw plenty of those related to my free agency rankings. And the way that they were aggregated. But even by those standards, at least most of those managed to cite the post and link to it, as opposed to just treating it as if it was something that had happened now, 9 months ago. Like, you could take any of my old stories, like Kevin Pelton thinks that the Boston Celtics are going to win the Eastern Conference. What a like, has he not seen that they're eliminated from the playoffs? Like, I don't know.
Fair enough.
But because it was solely for the purpose of making Pistons fans angry about this non-existent snub for Cade Cunningham.
It's all content. That's literally the story. They're bored for stories. The Pistons. They have 0 championships that matter. So
On that
You
note,
you might have to delete that. I don't know.
more Pistons fans listening to this podcast.
When they find this. I'm sorry, not to be too earnest.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.